As you all know, school has started here again in Cannon Falls, and as superintendent of the Cannon Falls School District, our speaker really does have a passion for education, and I think has done an outstanding job serving as superintendent of schools. So would you please join me in welcoming this morning Cannon Falls School Superintendent Beth Giese. Beth, welcome and thank you for being here.
There's about 4 cords up here, so I'm going to try not to trip over anything. Tom, if you want to come up and help with the video portion of things. I'm really excited to be here. Last time I spoke at Adventures of Learning, I was right before Don Shelby. And it was very apparent that I really wasn't, people weren't there to see me. They were there to see Don Shelby. So I'm excited to be here again. I guess it's been a couple years. If you catch me anywhere, whether it's Econo Foods or downtown or whatever, I'm always very, very passionate in talking about Cannon Falls. So I will try to keep it exciting for you, but I often have a lot of passion behind what I'm doing, so you'll have to I'll apologize ahead of time for that. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I thought I would put just a few things that not everyone knows about me. I have taught just about everything in about 3 different school districts, all in the state of Minnesota. I went to college in Nebraska, so I did do some teaching down there before moving home. I have been an elementary principal, and I've also done administration at the high school level. Both of those have been in Cannon Falls. If you're not aware, I was a teacher here, an assistant principal, and superintendent. If you ask anyone about that, not always the best move. You know, you're disciplining colleagues that were your friends and are your friends, so not always the best situation, but I think when you love a town and a community as much as I do, for whatever reason, it works. I've lived in Cannon Falls for 16 years. I have a daughter and a son, and they're both in middle school this year, so if you can imagine my life, it's kind of crazy, especially with a 13-year-old girl that, oh, yeah, I'll make it, right? 5 more years. I have Tennessee walking horses. I see some of my fellow riding people in the room, so that's great. If you don't know anything about a Tennessee walker, look it up. It's an amazing animal, and they're really fun to ride. I did serve in the United States Army Reserve for 12 years. I'm really proud of that. It paid for a lot of my schooling. I was one of those kids that I didn't have money for college. My parents did a great job raising me, and I had great, school life, but we just didn't have the funds. So I'm really proud that I worked really hard to get all the schooling that I've gotten in my life. And I grew up in Pine Island, Minnesota. Not everyone knows that. So I'm supposed to talk about what's going on at the school today. And I'm going to hit on technology. And the reason why I want to do that is a lot of the phone calls and a lot of the concerns that I get from our taxpayers or parents are, what's going on with all this technology? I was in church the other day and a kid was on his iPad, and I know it was a school-issued iPad, and why are they always playing games on their iPads or their devices? And that really isn't the case. I'm going to play a video here in a little bit, and I want to show you why so much technology is involved in schools nowadays. And then I want to talk a little bit about what makes us unique, the things that you hear me bragging about all the time, the things you hear in the paper. I want to talk about why Cannon Falls is as amazing as it is. And then I am going to touch on our referendum. I know so many of you are probably sick of hearing me talk about that, or I will be talking to your future groups about that, but it really is important to be informed on our fall referendum. So from there, I'm going to have Tom. This is a short video. I think it's really powerful in explaining why technology is so in our schools, okay?
There has never been a bigger force for change than technology. It changes absolutely everything about the way we live, the way we get around, the way we eat, even the way we talk to each other.
That statement right there is so true. We are educating our kids for jobs that really don't even exist yet. It's a very powerful statement. Okay, I know that, watching a video wasn't really my best option for the presentation, but it's pretty powerful. really, truly, the number one concern that comes to my office as far as what you're spending money on is ultimately technology. And I get it. I get that it's hard for parents to understand how on earth can you spend $40,000 a year on devices? These kids are always looking at these devices. And I get that. At our house, the devices go away after dinner. They don't come back out. But you also need to understand that I'm dealing with this, our teachers are dealing with this. We have to do staff development to educate our teachers. These kids are coming into our classrooms far more prepared in technology than we are. So we're spending resources on teachers to get up to date. I went in and got my truck looked at. Something's wrong with the engine. I walk in, the kid hooks it up to a device and runs the computer system off my truck. It's an 06. I didn't even know you could do that. What I'm getting at is that when I walk down the hall and I was talking to John earlier, I was walking down and Mr. Pliscott was teaching an ag class, and I walk by and they all have a device out and they're taking soil samples. It was an agronomy lesson. It's everywhere. We don't have a choice. If we don't give our kids the opportunities to learn what you just saw in that video, we really are setting them back. Now, I think it's unfortunate that too many parents are letting their kids use it as a fun thing. Go out and play. Join baseball. Get some air. All of those things. But the school really does have to have technology in our classrooms. So when you see money's been spent on technology, you are right. It is being spent, but I think it's really being spent properly. And I think later in my presentation, you're going to see our test scores and things like that are really equating. I think we're doing it right. The other thing that I think we're doing right is we didn't implement all at once. And I'm not going to pick on any schools because everyone has a different system. But when this all became really popular, it was the first thing everyone did. They went out and got every kid a device. Get rid of the computer labs. We don't need that anymore. Let's just get every kid a device. Well, technology changes. We're doing ours in a 4-year rotation. So what you got 4 years ago, then we can lease it out and we can get a different option for those kids. So that these kids are always getting a different device. For example, my son was in 5th grade last year and they used iPads. So he was familiar with that system. Now in 6th grade, he gets a Chromebook. And again, it's another method. So when he goes to college, hopefully he'll see 3 or 4 different type technology tools so that he can use that when he gets there. I won't dwell on this, but it certainly is a part of the later question, which is our referendum. We have to stay up to date on technology. And I know it's frustrating for people, but it is really important, and I'm really proud of how Cannon Falls is doing it. I'm going to keep with the theme, did you know? When I started here 16 years ago, I was hired, I taught 4th grade in Cannon Falls, my first year. All of our classes were over 120 kids. They were. Muriel, we worked together, she's shaking her head. They were all about 120. Now our graduating class last year, our senior class, was about 122 kids. Okay, so we did have one of those random classes. But as you can see, we average between 80 and 90 kids in every grade level. And you say, okay, why is that a big deal? Well, funding is per pupil unit. We still have facilities that we need to keep. We still need to educate these kids, whether it's one child or in our case, it's close to 1,200 kids. We still have to educate all these kids, okay? And the other thing to remember is we now have preschool numbers. We're at full capacity. I don't know if you're aware, but we got the Parent Aware Award, and that, for a lot of parents, it's a way of telling that your preschool is top-notch. People drive over from Red Wing, they drive over, they bring their kids to preschool at our school. So our buildings are at capacity, and those are things that we're proud of. But I want you to know that our enrollment isn't going somewhere else. If we were looking at our ins and our outs and where they're going to school, and Jim and I joke all the time about Randolph being right next door, but we're not losing kids. We just truly have a lower enrollment than we had even 16 years ago when I started here. I want to talk about some unique things at Cannon Falls. The Global Green Screen Project. Are any of you with the Shepherd Center and do the reading program with us? Maybe you've seen this. Okay, a couple people. This was a grant that was written, and it's basically a room where kids can go in, and what we're noticing with technology in some ways is kids are unable to speak. And do you know what I mean? Have you talked to your grandkids on the phone? They don't really even know how to call you on the phone. They'd rather send you an email or something like that. What this does is it allows kids to go in and they get to be a newscaster or something like that, and they get to work on their speaking skills, and it's got a green screen in the back, and you can shoot things out, and your grandparents at home can watch you on TV and things like that. So Again, it was a grant, but it's been a really great opportunity for our kids. Lego robotics, you've probably heard about that a little bit. It's a little more than just playing with Legos on the floor. This is a great way to get engineering in kids' hands. If you've never watched one of these competitions, the kids literally make a Lego robot, they hook it up to their computer, and they run it completely without touching it. And they go to Rochester and they compete. And it's just a remarkable thing. And it is a great way. These kids, we're going to need more engineers in the world. This is just a great way to do that. Math masters, most schools have gotten rid of this. They say, you know, we don't have money for that. We run a math class. Kids are going to have to learn what they know in math. We have got the most amazing volunteers in Cannon Falls. They said, okay, you're going to cut the program because of money. Guess what? We're going to volunteer. And we have the most amazing volunteers in our town that kept this program going. So we still have math masters, very unlike other schools. We just received a grant. It'll actually get here in October for a 3D printer. And I know you're saying, who cares? We don't, what's the big deal? A 3D printer is, again, about engineering. And it's showing kids how to mold things and the mechanics of how to do that. And hopefully I get to come back and talk to you sometime, and I'm going to bring some of these 3D things. But a lot of the careers that kids are going into are not 4-year careers, these 2-year careers. And they're going to need things like a 3D printer training. So pretty remarkable. PBIS is a system I know many of you have heard about. It is rewarding kids for doing good things instead of always punishing kids for doing bad things. You know, we've gotten to the point where this works. Our discipline referrals have gone down remarkably. Other schools are starting to copy us. We actually went over and did a presentation in Red Wing. They want to do what we're doing. So again, I think we're raising some really, really great kids in Cannon Falls because of that. And the birthday book program is something my elementary principal is really passionate about reading, and we get grants, and every kid gets a book on their birthday. Silly, I know, but they also get to go meet with the principal, they get to go chit-chat with him, and that works for kids. They're really, really excited about reading. Did you know, I'm gonna brag a little bit, one of our best years ever. I feel like we're doing everything right. I'm so confident in what we're doing. Cannon Falls had the top MCA scores in the HVL in reading and math for 7th grade. Why that's so important is we know that 7th and 8th grade scores are indicators for ACTs, your SATs, and things like that after going on to graduation. To be the top in the HVL is remarkable. We're the top 8th grade science scores in the HVL as well. We're in the top half for high school reading and math. And again, getting high school kids to care about a test that does not get graded, it means nothing to them. And they're still performing that high. So we're really happy with that. And we're one of the 4th highest MMR scores, and I won't get into what MMR is, but it's minority populations, special education populations, all those things. 4th is remarkable. It's the highest we've ever been, and we're really proud of that. Online classes. You think, well, I don't want my kid taking online classes. When they get to college, whether it's 2-year, 4-year, or they go into the workforce, just talked to a gal, she's going to be a hairstylist. They take online classes to keep their license active, okay? This is something the world, you're just gonna have to do. So we want to expose our kids to that as much as we can. So we joined a co-op called WeTech. It's Sombrero Mazeppa, Kenny Wanamingo, Cannon Falls. I'm missing one. Goodhue, sorry, Goodhue. And our classes are taught in an ITV room. So I'm Miss Giese, and I'm up front teaching the class, but I'm also teaching kids from those 4 other districts. And then they're up there, they're teaching an online class, and we get that for free. Do you see how that works? So if I want a kid to take Chinese, for example, it's the new international language. If everyone was smart, they would have their kids take Chinese. I can have kids from Cannon Falls take that class, and we have a Goodhue teacher that teaches it. Isn't that remarkable? That our kids can stay in Cannon Falls, they don't need to drive anywhere, and they can still get those courses. So we're really proud of these online classes, and it doesn't cost our district money, which is really important. Because if they went to take an online class at a college, we actually have to foot that bill, or PSEO, we'd have to pay for that as well. AP classes are your advanced placement. Kids can decide if they want to take a college credit for this, many do. This again, if you were to go to any other school, you will not see this many options. They let their kids drive to Inver Grove, let them drive to Rochester. They let them go PSEO, or an option where they're off campus. This keeps our kids in the classrooms. Now, not every teacher can teach this. I think this shows really remarkable things about our teachers. You have to have a master's degree in these areas to be able to teach these classes. And these teachers want to be in Cannon Falls. They want to live here. They want to work here. They're teaching classes like this because they're passionate about it. So again, we don't have a lot of kids that leave PSCO, and I think this is the number one reason why. I want to talk a little bit about the Housing Initiative Project. I see a couple people have been to our meetings on that. We build a house every year in Cannon Falls. The Housing Initiative has started this program, oh Jim, how many years ago?
We're on house number 13 now.
Okay.
Starting house number 13.
Right, so
13
it's
years.
been around for a while, been around my entire career, but this is something that this last year we did not have very many kids registered for. Now remember, if you even have 7 kids that are registered to build a house, this is probably something they're going to do in their lifetime. They're going to go into the trades. They're going to build homes. They're going to be an electrician. They're going to be a plumber. We need kids to be in these classes. But when you only get 7, 8 kids to register, and we're facing budget issues, we look at reducing projects like this. And I'm very thankful to say that, again, Cannon Falls stepped up, the Housing Initiative stepped up and said, we will help you pay the teacher. We want to run with this class either way. And as of the start of school, we now have 15 kids in that program. So had they not stepped up, we wouldn't have this. But again, I kind of listed some things that are unique to Cannon Falls. Too many schools, in my opinion, have gotten rid of basic auto care, small engines. Well, if you're a kid like my brother, this is why he came to school. You want to keep kids in school. We need mechanics. We need people to, have carpenters in this world. So again, I'm so glad that Cannon Falls has these programs. I'm very, very excited to say that we have that. Our art department, our art and music, fine arts in general, has been cut due to reductions. But we're proud to say that we still have band and choir and a lot of these art classes, because that is something that stimulates kids, and we need to make sure we have all those things too. So it kind of comes down to all these wonderful things we're talking about, but how do we keep that going? How do we continue? We have cut every year since I've been here over $300,000 a year. And sometimes that's doable because as kids leave, you need to downsize. So instead of maybe having 5 sections of 4th grade, you go to 4 sections because it's kind of what we call right sizing. It makes sense. So a part of those reductions have been just right sizing things. But what's happening now is we're starting to look at things, the meat, the important parts of things, the things we just talked about. And so this fall, if you haven't heard, many of you have, you're probably sick of me talking about it, we are going for an operating referendum. For those of you that don't know what an operating referendum does, I like to do this. It's levy for learning, bond for building. Okay, so when we built the new field house and built all those things before I was superintendent, that's a bond, okay? What we're asking for here is a levy. It's for learning, okay? So it's all of these things, instructional supplies, services directed to the educational process, utilities, basic maintenance kind of things, transportation. We transport every kid in Cannon Falls. We're kind of in a weird situation. We've got 19 here and the river over there. Or am I reversed? Where am I? It's a unique situation. So we bus every kid, even 2 blocks away. I don't want them walking across 19. But if we don't have funding, and to say, kid, you have to walk 2 blocks, it really brings on tough decisions for the school district. But that's what an operating levy or operating referendum is. It's for learning. I talked about this already a little bit, the operating referendum, different than a building bond. You're probably sitting there going, oh, here she is again. I know I saw my taxes. I know I saw something with Cannon Falls Schools on my taxes. You're right, you did. The bond, the building, you've seen that. The biggest difference with that too, and I've got that down there again, levy, learning, building, bond. A bond is anything you need building. Now you've heard a lot about our boiler systems. You've heard a lot about those types of things. That's again a bond, not a levy. The biggest thing, tax impact, I get asked this question, usually people email this one to me. It does get confusing. The nice thing about a levy is it's only your garage, your house, and 1 acre is what you're taxed on. That's why people get really scared of building bonds. You talk about Randolph, we just talked about this earlier today, going for a building bond. When you have a lot of farmers in the community, it can be really hard to pass those bonds because you're taxing everything, whether you have 7,000 acres or 1. But what we're asking for this fall is, again, a levy, and it's 1 acre, your garage, and your house. That's what you're taxed assessed on. Oh, and I should say, if you have a cabin, I don't know if any of you are lucky enough to have that, but you don't pay any taxes on cabin type things. Why do we need one? We have no voter-approved referendum in place right now. We're kind of at that point where I don't know how much longer we can go without making major, major reductions. So we don't have one. The last one expired 6/30. We did go out in 2011. That one was voted down. I was just brand new into the superintendency that year, but it did get voted down that fall. But the one that expired was last June. The districts, and we talked about this a little bit, the declining, just from last year alone, we've lost 20 kids. Every kid in our district is worth about $62,000 in funding from the state of Minnesota per pupil unit. So we're already down, it's kind of like you're already down and then you're down again, Oh, here we go. We are asking, the board took a long time and really was cautious about what we did, and I'm proud of them for taking their time to really see what we need. We wanted to go to the voters with an actual number, not just, oh, hey, Red Wing has got a 1,200 in place, why don't we do that? It just didn't feel right to do that. We wanted to make sure what we were asking for is exactly what we needed. So they decided on $500 per pupil unit for 10 years, and that would start the following year. You never get it the year you vote, you get it the year after. If it was to be approved, it would equal $560,000, and we know next spring for sure we need to cut $483,000, and that's without any more kids moving to Florida. Okay, so that's the difference, and that is why they went for the 500. I know you can't see this real well in the back, but it's just kind of a breakdown of where we spend our money. And if you ever want to come in and talk school finance, love it. Let's have lunch. Let's go through where all of our money is being spent, because I really like transparency and I like you to know where the money's being spent. I'm very proud of how we spend our money in Cannon Falls. And I guess this is something I'm also proud of, is we were awarded the school finance, district with school finance award. This is unique. Not every district gets this. You have to prove fiscal health and compliance with all state statutes. And we also got it because I am passionate about writing grants. Maybe you see it in the Beacon where it's like, where on earth did they get that? That 3D printer. Why are they getting a 3D printer if they are cutting? It's because of grants. I'm really, really, really passionate about that. And so we were given this award for fiscal health. And then basically people ask me, well, what are you going to use it for? I suppose you're going to give that superintendent a big raise, or the teachers, or, oh, I hate when that happens. That is not true. This will be used for current programming. Everything that I said earlier in the presentation, that's our current programming. That's what's getting those MCA scores where they're at. That's what's giving our kids, if you look at our grads, even from college, they're graduating, they're going into med school, they're opening their own mechanics shop. It's just remarkable what kids from Cannon Falls are doing. So the answer to your question is we are going to maintain current programming. Now, I know many of you are smart enough to say, well, wait a minute, this is going to bring in $560,000 and you only need to cut $483,000. We also had a bus breakdown on the first day of school. You want to talk about your heart, panic mode. The parents were wonderful. We got every van we owned out there. It was out by Vesa. We got those kids home. They thought it was fun. Of course, a kid go home with a story of a bus broke down, I can't have that happening. I need to get a bus into the rotation, at least a lease on a bus, and I need to get that done soon. But in the current situation we're in, we just can't do that. We keep fixing and fixing and fixing. And if you ever want to see the list of our buses, I would love to show that to you too. We run those things. We've got a full-time mechanic. He makes them run all the time. So this is a comparison, and not that I like to compare to other districts. I don't think that's always wise to do. But in this situation, I think it's important to see, these are our neighboring schools. This you can find on the state webpage. This is nothing new. I pulled it straight from there. The blue is your board approved, anything your board has approved. So things you see on your taxes, okay, are your blue. And the green is what the state has authorized you to do. It's called LOR, okay? Location. Basically, they're saying Cannon Falls shouldn't be hurt just because Apple Valley is in the cities. They shouldn't get what we call metro money. It becomes very unfair. So that's the way of the state balancing things out. But as you can see, we're at 724, and you know, we're making some remarkable things. I look at this, and again, I don't want to brag. We're beating all of them out in test scores. We're graduating more kids. Our graduation rate is higher than a lot of these districts. I've got another teacher sitting in the room, so I'll be careful. But we're just really proud of this. I think this shows that we're really spending our money wisely and in the right areas. It is always one of those things when another educator's in the room, isn't it? Why did the board decide on 500? We talked about this a little bit. If they were to do 500, and I know it says 550 because that's the original number I was going to give them, that puts our fund balance at 5.1%. Auditors want you at 16%. So even with what we're asking, we're not putting money in the bank. We're not sitting on a fund balance. We're still at 5.1, which makes superintendents and business managers very nervous. But again, we listened to you in the last referendum, and what you said is, you're asking for too much. You're asking for too much. You need to lower that amount. And so that's why we decided to go for exactly what we need, not building up our savings, which makes us, when a bus breaks down, it would be nice to have that savings, but we're going to build it into the budget instead. Everybody votes at the Cannon Community Center. Sometimes if you live out in the country, like I used to go vote over in Bell Creek and White Rock and all those, you don't do that. Everybody goes to the Cannon Community Center. And it's from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. You'll see Lori there. She basically lives there that entire day. So I just, you know, I hope you got something out of it. I want you to be informed. I want you to call me when things get closer. We are going to have a tax tabulator on our webpage down the road. But if you don't like getting online, call me. I'll figure out your taxes exactly for you. I also have a sheet up here. And we'll make copies of these later. I didn't want to pass these out today and make a ton of copies. But $150,000 home is the average home in Cannon Falls. It's $138. Ends up being $11 a month, basically. So I know my whole presentation wasn't supposed to be about the referendum, but as you can tell, I get kind of excited about it. So are there questions? Or if you want to email me questions, if I don't know the answer today, I'll get back to you, I promise. Sure.
Those classes for college,
AP classes?
they can use that for credits when they go to college?
Absolutely. We have to be certified, which we are, and they have to choose if they're going to take the final test or not. Most of them do. They pay for that out of their own pocket. You have to pay for the college credit. And then if you pass the exam, you get the college credit. So it's kind of on the parents a little bit because you are getting a college credit out of it. But what parents like is they can take it right here. So not everyone, a lot of people take the AP classes because it looks really good on your transcript, and it looks good to get into college. Not everyone takes the final exam. You know, maybe they just don't want to pay for the money now. It seems like a great opportunity. Most do, but you don't have to. So. I just get scared if all those AP kids leave to go to Inver Grove to take one class, you meet friends at Inver Grove, you meet friends there, and then it doesn't take long and you're there full time. And I think kids miss out. They'll regret not having that high school experience. So right now kids are taking AP classes and still here for homecoming this week. You know, if it's my kid, that's important to me. So, Jim, you had a question?
Can you tell us what you and your board members are doing to kind of affirmatively promote the levy referendum?
Sure.
And of course this relates to Randolph, where I thought that people a lot of the pro passage of the
Right.
thing kind of took everything for granted.
I think you're right. If you're not out there talking about it, well, we've created a lot of documents that are going out. We're going to do the tax tabulator. I have 12 speaking engagements. Now that the word is out there, people are calling in. The board is going to get active down the road. You know, right now we need to educate the community, and I think that probably comes best from Lori and I. If you guys don't know Lori Hansen, we feel like we're both going to take a week off after this referendum. We're both going crazy. We don't have community members helping us with this campaign. I sent it out to pretty much everyone, the PTO, the Ed Foundation, you know, all of our organizations. But running a referendum is so time consuming. It's a lot of work. And so we haven't had anyone step forward, but I've got a lot of volunteers to help with different things. talking to recent grads, make sure they're voting, absentee voting, things like that. We just stuffed 6,000 envelopes. Some people prefer to have that information in their hand. Some people want to go to the online version of things. Something you and I talked about earlier is I put a fact a week on Facebook and I get 3,000 hits. I forget that there's so many people. That's what they rely on. They rely on social media. Heck, I could put anything on there, and they're looking at that. It makes me a little concerned, but that's where people are getting their information. So I think we're taking a different strategy. I want everyone to know everything. If you have any question, I want people to come to my office. Even if we don't agree, I want to educate people properly. So we are not taking the back seat like, this is going to pass. We're not taking that approach. We know that our community, a lot are on fixed income. I'm a single mom. I know what I can spend every month. I get all of those things. So I want to educate people in what this is going to entail. But our board will be getting more involved later. Right now, it's a lot of Lori and I and a lot of people behind the scenes that are working really, really hard. But, yep.
How many school districts have operating levies right now?
Well, there's
Most percentage?
Yeah, there's very few in the state that don't have one. We're one of them. I was at a conference yesterday for a levy certification meeting down in Rochester, and I was the only person that raised my hand. I don't have the answer to that. I'll get it for you. But I was the only one in a room of probably 60, 70 superintendents that was going this fall. Odd to go this year. Most people like to, you don't want to necessarily go on a presidential year because everyone comes out to vote. This is not a presidential year. But we're taking the stance that this is the year we need funding. And the answer is we're going to cut $483,000 if it doesn't pass. And we're laying it out the most honest way we can. Our teachers settled 2 weeks ago. You'll see that in the Beacon this next week. They settled the lowest of any settlement that's been reported to MSBA. And yet they're teaching AP classes. They're doing all these things. I don't know of any others. But there's so few that don't have a referendum in place. So I don't know if that's a fair answer either. Yeah, Zumbrota passed their big one last year. Red Wings passed their big one. A lot of people have them in place. Do you know of any school districts that are going for any? Farmington is. Theirs is a technology levy. I can't think of many. Good questions. So far, you haven't attacked me. This is good. I love this group.
I'm going to go off the board. Whatever happened to your band?
The band position?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I was watching the parade and Karen Falls wasn't even in on the parade.
Right. Well,
I was just wondering, are you cutting that
Nope.
out or?
no, we aren't. We actually are. We did look at cutting one band teacher. We have very low numbers in bands. So we did look at that. So you did hear that correctly. The board decided after our last band teacher left to come back with a half-time. What I think happened is because that band teacher left, he also was our marching band instructor. So we now have someone hired, and he's excited to get going. So I think it was a transition thing. Mr. Bryan left. And so how do you get a teacher to come back when they've left your district? So, yeah. They were in the Ellsworth parade. They were in some other parades that they looked great in.
I'm not in the paper if they were.
Yep.
If they were allowed to.
Yeah.
Other places and play.
Right. I'm so glad you asked that. Anytime we have an opportunity to showcase what's going on, whether it's an art fair or marching the parade or anything, in the parade we did have our steel drum band. I don't know if you've seen that before, but it's really unique and different, and they were in the parade. So I think they opted to do that because at that time we were down to one band teacher. The other one had left the district. So you can look forward to them next year. I would imagine they'd be there.
And the fall musical is going to be Annie.
Annie, and you should see, they came in yesterday and they asked, can we have a real dog in Annie? Like, no. That doesn't work. But yeah, so I'm the big meanie, all the girls were like, but it's not the same without the dog. And they came, I said, well, whose dog are you going to use? It was this big, huge black lab. I'm like, have you not seen Annie? It's not a black lab anyway. But no, we can't have dogs in school, so. Yeah, no, it's going to be great. Come see the fall musical. Any other questions? Got plenty of time. I got through that pretty quick. Well, I appreciate everyone. Please take time to stop by and see me or email me if you do have a question you don't want to ask here. Yep, go ahead.
About how much does it take the student to take the test for the AP class?
You know, it depends. They usually start in the class that they're in, and they never finish that hour, but they already know they're not going to their second hour. So a class period's 42 minutes, so it could take up to 80 minutes.
No, how much money?
Oh,
does it cost
I'd have to,
take?
I don't know for sure. I think it used to be, Lori, do you know? $119?
I was gonna say between 125, 150 when my
Okay.
daughter took one of
Okay.
them, but I can find out the.
I was just curious about, is it that the students don't have the money to take the test?
No, we have if that was the case, we would help them out with that. I mean, if they want to go for that test, a lot just want it for the transcript, you know, that's what they're ultimately looking to get into a certain college, and you get weighted. The more honors classes or AP classes you have, you get weighted into certain schools. So a lot of kids don't want the test anyway.
Do they still get credit for the class even if they don't take the test?
They get credit for high school credit, yes.
Oh, but
if
not
they want
college
college credit, you know.
They have to take the
Mhm.
test?
And it's just one college credit, so,
Okay.
you know, it doesn't add up real fast. But I believe the test, we can get back to, but it's right around $120.
That was fine.
Yep.
I was just curious.
Absolutely. I would never, we have people come in all the time with scholarships for things like that, so we don't have to worry about that. Yep.
Comment on the relationship between the school district and the homeschool families?
Oh, sure. I think we have a good relationship. I haven't heard anything otherwise. We get them whatever they need. They file a petition with the state of Minnesota every year. I sign their form. It goes to Deb Klagan in our guidance office, and then they get information back so they know who to contact. Say they've got to take the MCA test just like our kids, or most of our homeschool kids come in for band or choir, sometimes an art class. Sometimes a parent that's homeschooling may feel like, I can't teach them physics, but they need physics. Can they come 4th hour for physics? Yes, they can. They can also take online courses with us, but ultimately they get the funding from the state. It often ends up being cheaper for them to just do it through their own venue. You know, there's a lot of online schools out there. So I think we have a really healthy relationship. There's always a good reason behind kids that are homeschooled. I never have them come in and like beg them to come to Cannon Falls schools. Parents are your biggest advocate for kids. They know what's best for their kids. And if homeschooling their child is what's best for them, all I can do is encourage them and give them the resources that they need. If a parent comes in and says, I need all the books for 7th grade, we can't do that. Our taxpayers are paying for those books and they need to be at our site. That's where some confusion can come. Well, I'm going to teach them 7th grade, but you need to give me all your stuff. Well, it doesn't work that way. You're getting the funding from the state. You'll need to go purchase those. And textbooks are outrageously expensive. And now that we have the one-to-one devices, a lot of classes, textbooks are you can actually read the book on the device. So I think we have a really good, healthy relationship. There isn't a ton of people in our district that homeschool. But the ones that do, I think, would say we do a nice job.
My understanding is that they're welcome to participate in all those.
Oh, yes, most of them do. Most of them do. We had a state champion runner that was homeschooled. Yeah, we welcome them. I'm very glad that they join our teams. Yep.
On the school books, they change every year, every few years, or?
Every 10 years, we are on a textbook rotation. Some books come up sooner than others. Your reading curriculum is really important. We're on about a 6-year rotation for that. But a lot of that now is online as well. So these kids, even in 1st grade, can pull up that information. It gets kind of crazy when you walk in a room, but math books don't change a lot, so we can get 10 years out of a textbook if we take really good care of them. Some classes are unique, and they need different types of textbooks, but right now Cannon Falls is on a 10-year rotation, unless something comes up that's a little different, and always literacy tends to be one that we need new coursework in. So, and a set of textbooks, just so you know, for one, either elementary, say you do elementary math, high school math, we always divvy it out in 2 years so you're not hit with it once. We budget about $62,000 a year for textbooks. So it's substantial, but in an $11 million budget, you know, but that's the only way you can really afford to do it is keep that rotation going. But a lot of our classes like art and those kinds of things don't have textbooks. So it's not too bad. Yes, Jim?
This has nothing to do with school, but.
Oh, boy. This is where I'm going to get. See, I told there's always one in every crowd.
Yeah. No, can you tell us a little about your Army Reserve time, and why did you get out after 12 years instead of going for 20, which is kind of the
Yeah.
magic number?
I hear that a lot. Why didn't you do 20? The retirement for 20. Maybe I should have. I had my daughter in 2002, and I got out of the military in 2002. I had been over in Desert Storm and watched parents really struggle with that. When I was over there, I was 20 and 21 years old. It's easy to be away from home. I missed college, but it was easy for me to be away. I was scared something else was going to happen, and I would be pulled away from my kids, and so it was just not an option for me, and my ETS date came up, and everyone tried to talk me out of it. But at that point, I had gotten my master's degree. I had gone on and started some of my doctorate work and some of that, so I felt like I had gotten everything I needed out of them, and I just did not think I would be a good soldier for them if I had kids. I can't have a baby at home and do that. So I made the choice, and I don't regret it. I loved every minute of it. I got some really great opportunities. I got to go to Norway and Italy and Germany and did a lot of training in a lot of different places, and I loved every minute of it, but kids came first. Good question, Jim. Because that retirement would be really nice. I know. Oh. Yep, Rod.
Tonight's homecoming, I imagine it's
Yeah.
been a fun week of activities for
Oh,
all
it's-
students, or?
Yes, it's been crazy. Yesterday in the afternoon, we had a Cannon's Got Talent, and these kids really do have talent. I don't know if any of your kids or grandkids got up there, but it was remarkable. We videotaped it. We'll hope to put it on there, but we even had a teacher get up, and he changed the words to the song, and it was, I can't wait till homecoming's done. I'm tired. And the kids were like, woo! Because he's the physics teacher at school, so it was very out of character that this guy got up with a guitar and sang, and none of us even knew he played an instrument or sang. So the kids were standing up with their phones doing the, back and forth. So anyway, it was just absolutely a fun day. I did get TP'd last night, if any of you did. Sorry, it's those darn juniors. So yeah, I've got a bunch of flamingos in my yard too, so if you drive by, yes, they got me while I was at the volleyball game last night. They must have known I was gone. But I think we have really respectful kids. They do some things that I guess kids do, but ultimately at the end of the day, they try to respect everybody. So if you can get down to the game, it's really fun, especially homecoming with the court, and the band will be there playing and all of that, and so pretty excited. Any other questions? All right, thanks everybody.